This is the Sober Boozers Club podcast.
Welcome everybody to the Sober Boozers Club podcast. My name is Ben Gibbs. I'm an alcoholic and I've been sober since January 2022. In that time, I have been navigating the world of alcohol-free beers, sampling some of the best that the world has to offer. In this podcast, we're going to talk to people from within these circles and find out a little bit about their journey. So you sit back, relax, and enjoy. In today's episode, I am joined by the king of alcohol-free beer. That sounds dramatic, but this man is. I call him the Oracle because what he doesn't know about alcohol-free beer isn't worth knowing, quite frankly. It is my friend Martin Dixon, aka Alcohol Free World, and you can't run an alcohol-free beer podcast without having this man on. It's the law. The last time I had you on, Martin, I'm going to admit something now, I was really quite nervous. Because to me, you were like the holy grail, the oracle of alcohol-free beer. Today, in this year's episode, I'm welcoming you on as a friend, and that is lovely to say. So, Martin, hello, my good friend. How are you?
Very well, and very happy to be speaking to you again, my good friend Ben. And I was nervous before I spoke to you this time last year as well, because I wasn't sure if the person I was seeing on the socials was as authentic as the person I was gonna meet on the chat and go on to become a very good friend of. So yeah, this doesn't feel so much as a podcast interview, just as a bit of a long overdue catch up.
Yeah, that's how I've kind of been seeing this all day. It's like, obviously we've known that we've had the recording booked in, so to speak, for this evening, as it is currently at time of recording. And I haven't been thinking, I've got a podcast to do later. It's been, I'm chatting to Martin later. That would be cool. And you run the risk then of when we started this call before the recording started, I really had to rein myself in and be like, all right, don't just talk for an hour now, because you got to record this as well. But it would have been an easy trap to fall into. The last 12 months have been wild in the world of alcohol-free beer. How have you navigated that? What's been exciting you? And do you see it kind of slowing down, or do you think this is just the tip of the iceberg?
Yeah, the last 12 months has been a crazy 12 months, almost like no other, just in terms of both volume and quality of alcohol-free beers coming out. I think also for me, I've got a foot in several countries, several camps. I order beers from all over the world. I've actually got a lot more relaxed and chilled out in the last 12 months because I cannot ever keep up, even with one country. And a year ago, I was still kind of pretending that I could. And now it's just really good because I know that I can't. I like that. So I'm just really excited that there are just so many exciting beers coming out of the UK, coming out of America, coming out of Australia, all over Europe. Great new things happening in Sweden where I live. It's great. I don't have to try everything. I just try the good stuff, try and find some new stuff, and I'm just constantly wowed and surprised by the great things that are coming out.
I need to take a leaf out of that book because I'm still, I think, in the kind of FOMO stage where a beer will get released that I'm really excited about, and I think, right, I need to push that up the recording list, and then that keeps happening, and then I'll discover a beer at the back of my fridge that's like, well, they're not even brewing that anymore, and I haven't done anything about it, so now you've got to throw that out, and then people want to buy it, and it's like, you can't. It's a problem I didn't think I'd have when I started in the alcohol-free beer kind of scene. I was worried that I'd only have maybe like 20, 30 beers a year to talk about. I was like, oh, there can't be that many, surely. But for you more so than me, it's like a beer every day, a different beer. It's just wild. Like the quantity, and as you say, and the quality of them now, like being at the point, but you can just pick the ones that sound good. You're not drinking it just because you have to produce content. That's quite a special place to be at.
It's a wonderful thing. And there are beers which I'm drinking, and I'll give them a small plug, but I'm currently drinking a can of gold medal winning from me Mash Gang Pine Lime Death Shake, which is just a wonderful creamy key lime IPA that works on all kinds of levels. It's a brilliant beer, and that's a beer that's come out in the last 12 months. But it seems like that was from an eternity ago.
Yeah, like I still place that beer in. I mean, this isn't going to be relevant to anyone but me. But when I think of that beer, I think of my old house. And that was a long time ago. It was like years ago when I first got sober. But yeah, in the last 12 months, that beer was released. That's ridiculous. And you're right, it is a banger.
Yeah, it just, everything about it worked. I think it's Trent from Mash Gang Australia's recipe. So shout out Treno for that one.
Yeah, big love to Trent.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a beer that I've got one can left, and I don't love you that much, Ben. I'm drinking my last can with you now. This is my penultimate can, and the thought of having just one can of it left kind of makes me a bit sad. So I'll probably leave it too long and drink it when it's not at its best, which is what you should do with all your favourite beer, really. Just wait till it spoils a bit.
Yeah. But there's no point in drinking it when it's good, right? You've got to look at it for long enough to have got the full enjoyment out of it. I've got a can of Kitty Pig beer in my fridge that Jord from Mash Gang sent me, and I haven't opened it because it's so out of date. I'm like, I don't want to. And I spoke to Tyler, a Reducerholic. I mentioned this beer and said, I've got it in my fridge and I'm scared to drink it. He said, it's been pasteurized, it'll be fine. But the hypochondriac in me is still I don't really want to open that. But it's one of those beers that if I'd have just opened it when George sent it to me, I'd have been able to drink it, because I don't see another route to me being able to get that other than paying hundreds of pounds for import from America. So that's a shame. That is a great shame. But back to the Pine Lime, it's a beer. I mean, the beers that Trent made over there are just incredible. Like Mash Gang brews, we know them, we love them. But to have been lucky enough to have tried those ones from Australia, that's next level to me, I think. And especially considering in Australia they don't have that many, really, alcohol-free sort of beers coming out. To have had that just on their door, they don't know how lucky they were. My supreme champion beer of 2024 was Mash Gang's Beat Goon, which is just... I still think, alongside Guinness Zero, it's the greatest alcohol-free brewing achievement. It's just a genius of it. It's just a genius of a brew. And I've never met anyone who disagrees. The only thing is that there are so few people who got to try it. I know that you did. A few people we know in the States even managed to get hold of it, and it was incredible. It's going to sound so ridiculous. It may be a bit emotional. Yeah. Because I'd done an episode with Trent, and I've got to know him quite well since, and his kind of journey into it was all just kind of by accident, and it was so many struggles for him, and then to have released that, it was amazing. And I really hope that these beers continue to exist in some form, because my God, the world is a better place for them existing. Absolutely. But I also know that because all of the Mash Gang guys were so generous with their time and so generous with their knowledge. And I remember when they did the collabs with the Brewery Garden in Croatia, and then the beers reappeared without the collab branding. And they were very, very similar, albeit different enough to be different beers. And I remember thinking like, these guys are sharing the IP, everything that's unique about their beer, and they're just going to other places and sharing it. And George just said to me that, well, if we were to go in armed with reams of paper and sign contracts and do it with every person we were trying to work with, he said we wouldn't have got anywhere and done half or a tenth of the collab we wanted to do. And he said also, when we were starting, nobody treated us and forced us to sign all sorts of NDAs when we were talking to a brewer. And he just said, look, we're just paying it back. We're just sharing this knowledge around. And that has been such a boon for the alcohol-free brewing industry globally, because this new technology that was emerging, and I say technology because it was techniques, it was science, it was a bunch of people doing stuff that they shouldn't be doing, because people who know how to brew know that that's not how you do that, and that should be at that temperature, and don't put those in there yet, and wait for that. And it wasn't like that. It was people who hadn't learned all of that side, and were just trying to make the alcohol-free stuff taste great by trial and error, and they learned stuff. Yeah, well, you look at these hazy IPAs that exist now. I don't think I've had a bad one in 6 months from UK breweries, and that's Jord. Yeah. Let's not beat around the bush. That is Jord. That is Mash Gang. They are responsible for that. Look at what they did with Verdant, and then Gaia subsequently.
Yeah, and you could do like a 6 degrees of separation, or you could do like a serial killer, like string map type thing. I'm sure Jordan would like the idea of that. But little like strings going off to all sorts of like different brewers in the UK, and you could be like, okay, well, there was a collab with this one, and then Left Handed Giant worked with them, and then worked with them, and then that's that, and then it all leads back to
all roads lead back to Jordan. I've been saying this for a year though, that Mash Gang are gonna go down as one of the most important companies to exist in UK drinking culture. And at the time, I was saying they'll never get the credit for this. Obviously, now they're in a very different position, what with the acquisition and them going on to hopefully global heights. So they probably will get the credit for it, which is well and truly deserved. But the styles of beer that are coming out of the UK right now, like January this year, which we will touch upon because it nearly ruined me financially. But these styles of beers, they're just, as I say, I haven't had a bad one in about 6 months. It's just all really good, which is difficult for me because it's kind of, what do I say about this one? It's good. Next. Oh yeah, that's good as well. Shit. When are we going to get one that I can be a bit controversial with?
It was a real, I think that I felt that there was almost like a bit of an arms race going on in alcohol-free beer, where, particularly in the UK, where in the craft scene, there was a lot of pride that kind of crafted where the real flavour is. And that's where, we don't like these macro lagers. This is double IPA, this is triple IPA, this is imperial stout territory. This is the place where, strong stuff is made, and this is 7%, 8%, 9%. And there is that in the world of craft brewing. We both recognise that. And to almost win it spurs and grudging respect in that space felt to me that the alcohol-free side of things was trying to get itself noticed in that space and trying to really pack as much flavour in as possible. And we saw some incredible beers. I remember Pixie by Tatara. I couldn't believe it when I poured that one. It was like almost the colour of caramel milk, was loopy. It had an incredible nose on it. It was all of those just hot flavours, just concentrated. And it was just like, wow, okay, this is a beer that is going to end once and for all people saying that, well, it's a bit thin, it hasn't got much flavour. It's like, no. Like, have a can of that, have a can of Pixie, and tell me that you think alcohol-free beer hasn't got enough flavour, because I guarantee that's got too much flavour for most people who want to drink that sort of thing.
Yeah, I was about to say, it goes almost too far, that one. It's like, yeah.
And it felt to me since that there's been a lot more, and to link it to the theme of the last 12 months, there's a lot more kind of finesse, I feel, coming through now. And a lot more of people saying, you know what, we've got the tools to crank up every aspect of this to crazy levels. But you know what, that's really not what this is about. You don't need that. That's not where the best beer isn't just turning everything up to 11. The best beer is finessing it, of using the taster's eye, actually making the beer that yeah, wow, I like that. Nice transition, length to it, depth to it, interesting things there, things that you maybe haven't tried, things that work differently, but things that go together and make you go, oh yeah. That's a great beer. And that's what you mentioned, the great pale ales, the great hazy stuff coming out of the UK. It's just, it's fantastic. And it's going to be interesting to see if that kind of plateaus now, and do we just kind of accept that, there's just going to be an almost endless supply of just great limited edition beers in that category, or are we going to see some beers emerging that aren't limited editions that are then just kind of picked up and brewed solidly? One of the beers I can get in my state-owned liquor shop in Sweden is the Cloudwater Fresh, and that for me is that's a really good example of just the really solid hazy IPA that I now know I can go to the City and Bolaget near me in suburbs of Stockholm, and I can get a few cans of that, and that's a hell of a lot easier than transporting beer in suitcases and all the other things that I have to do to make sure that I get my craft fix of good alcohol-free stuff here in Sweden.
Yeah, that Cloudwater Fresh and like beers like that, they're just everyday smashable beers. It's like, okay, this is much nicer than where the industry was at 3 years ago, even 2 years ago, where it was like, okay, I've got my nice beers, and then I've got my supermarket beers where I buy the best that I can find. Because that's how I was living my life for a long time, was kind of, I had a supply of like Lucky Saint, etc., which is fine, like, it's good, but it's not that exciting anymore. Whereas now I can go onto websites or go into bottle shops and think, oh, okay, I'll have these ones that I've drank before, but that I know are really solid and really, really good. I do hope that breweries start to release more like lasting brews rather than these limited editions. That's one thing that I noticed in January was the amount of limited edition brews. And it's like, okay, are we... The cynic in me says that it was just for January, but if I was to be optimistic, I'm hoping that maybe it was just to test for waters and then go back, revisit them, change the recipe a little bit before putting them out as maybe a core range beer. Because I'd love to see it.
I'd love to know more about one of these minds. I always want to unpick stuff and try and work out what's going on behind the scenes. And I imagine a brewery meeting with people thinking, right, we this alcohol-free beer stuff, we could really release one or release an extra one this year. Yeah, let's release one in dry January. Yeah, good idea, everyone. Yeah, we'll do one for dry January, so we'll get it going in November, and then we'll get it. I do think to myself, is there not somebody like in that meeting somewhere going like, aren't there going to be a lot of other places having this conversation at the same time? And aren't we then just going to be releasing our beer at a time when literally everyone else is doing it? So yeah, it's going to be busy, but we're releasing it at the time that everybody else, and it's just going to be, because there were amazing beers released in January in the UK, which I did not hear about.
Yeah,
because they were there, but you didn't review them. I didn't see them. I didn't read about them, but they existed for a while, and they could be the greatest beer that ever existed, and I didn't get to try it.
No, I'm in the same boat, and I'm not trying to blow smoke up our asses here, but like, if we've missed them, you know,
I mean, they don't exist.
Considering it's all we do. Like, they basically don't exist. But no, but if we have missed them, and, you know, I spend my entire life looking at beer and looking at alcohol-free beer, and, like, it's almost to the point of addiction. You know, like, it is my entire identity. And if I've missed a beer being released in January, something's gone very wrong, not necessarily with a marketing strategy of an individual brewery, but like you say, with just the oversaturation of the liquids being released. I've still got January beers in my fridge now that I haven't drank.
And I would hate a brewery to kind of row back a little bit on alcohol-free beer because they decided that January 2025 was where they were going to make the big push and put a bit more budget behind it and a bit of bigger brew budget and brew time on it. And then they're reporting back in March and going like, oh, you know what, we didn't ship so much of that. And maybe the bubble kind of not what it was. And yeah, okay, well, we're not going to give up on it completely, but, you know, maybe not the thing that we thought it was.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And there are going to be breweries, they had the evidence for that in that they created a really good beer and it maybe didn't sell in the way that they expected it to. But I do hope that doesn't dampen their enthusiasm for it and that they realize that, particularly compared to all other dry January that I've ever known, January 25 was just insanity in terms of just volume of new releases. It was insane.
Yeah, I have never had so many boxes, like 2 boxes a day for the first 2 weeks of beer. It was ridiculous. And then obviously that's not accounting for the duplicates, because when you can only order a crate of 6 from certain breweries, it's like, right, okay, thanks guys, I'm going to have 6 of these. I'm going to send, well, we had our little chat where it's like, right, what ones do you need? What ones do you need? And we'll swap a couple around. Yeah, it's like football stickers.
That one, exactly.
But, I mean, such is the collectability of these things. You know, it's lovely. It's really lovely to be able to have this with alcohol-free beer because I didn't think I ever would. It's becoming a choice now because it's something that I want to drink and that people around the world want to drink, not something that they have to settle for, which is really exciting. And January definitely showed that breweries can do it. You know, the volume of releases, it's achievable. Even if it was half of what we got in January in a month, it would have still been ridiculous.
Well, I was going to mention, for me, one of the greatest ones was when I saw Wiper and Fru's output.
Yes, I was going to get onto that because they did it right.
Why release one beer when you can all collab?
That was madness. And they were all so different. It wasn't just like, oh, here's 4 hazies with kind of got 4 different breweries in to kind of put their name on. It was like, no, we're going to do like, what was it, stout, a pale, a Cali, no, New England, and a Goza. Have I got that right?
I think so. Because I know Wiper and True because they're Bristol, so that's my one-time home. Even though they're from the wrong end of Bristol, they're from the end who support the other lot that I don't like. The collab with people all over the UK. You know, I'd kind of expected them to have done something with, something more West Country or Wales, or maybe not Wales.
Yeah, I'm with you.
But the stout they made with 5 points in London, with I know 5 points because I love their pizza in a pub that they do, which is as a pub owner here in Sweden, that's a concept that I love, and I love what they've done with that. And we actually serve their full strength beer in my pubs in Sweden sometimes because
nice.
it's known as being 5 points, and known as being a really good brewery. But I'd never run into them on the alcohol free side because they've not done anything. And then all of a sudden I'm staring at a can of Wiper and True. It was a number 2 collab, wasn't it? With 5 points, and that was a really good right stout in a world where we've been a bit spoiled with fancier, shall we say, stout that frankly have been. There's so many amazing ones out there, but you've had everything from Black Forest Gatto to cinnamon donut to molasses to you name it. It's been added to the alcohol-free stout.
Did you have the biscotti one with Mashgang Australia and One Drop?
Yeah, I did. Trent sent me one.
That might be my favourite beer of all time.
It's incredible.
But yeah, you're right. We had all of these big flavour stouts, but to get just a nice dry stout that just is what it is, middle of the road, and isn't called Guinness. I say middle of the road, you know what I'm on about, but isn't called Guinness. Your bog standard, here's a stout, but it's good. It was really hard to come by.
Yeah, I love it. I really rated it. As you say, it would have been easy for them to make a more middle of the road call on that, and to make something like they could have made a coffee stout. They could have made they could have made choices. We've seen other places do when people think limited edition, quite often they kind of think, okay, we need to grab the attention here. And that whole range, I like the fact that they didn't. I mean, even the Northern Monk grapefruit one they did.
Mm-hmm. It was wild.
Yeah, I mean, it was like quite a dry beer that was kind of hopped with zesty pink grapefruit almost, instead of that was kind of doing the bittering as much as the hops were. It was just a really unusual beer, and I'd be much more used when I see pink grapefruit on a can. My brain kind of goes, okay, that's going to be like, I've had a lot of German radlers that are kind of German pink grapefruit radler thing, and you're like, okay, this is going to be grapefruit lemonade beer. Okay, that's nice. I could probably drink 10 of them on a hot day. But yeah, it's a bit juicy drink adjacent, and not really kind of. I could make that myself with a supermarket lager and just pour some grapefruit juice into it, and that's going to make something similar. But they went down a different, drier, zestier route with it. I was like, wow, I like this. This is fun, and I hope that maybe you could get the guys from Wiper and True on here. They'd be great guests if they're listening. To actually find out from the other side of the industry, the side we sit, to actually hear from them and go, okay, you brought out 4 collabs at the same time, launched them into the dry January market, and how did that work for them? I guess we'll see. Are they going to do it again next year? Are they going to keep any of those on the market? I'd love to see that.
Yeah, I feel like that there's a place for that stout. I think the stout and the first one with Track were my 2 favourites. But the stout, if there's a beer to be made a core beer, I think that one is head and shoulders. That has to be the winner for me, which says a lot about that beer because they were all very solid, decent offerings. But yeah, Wiper and True would be interesting because I can't remember who told me that they'd invested in a reverse osmosis system, or if I've just made that up. but I seem to recall.
I dream about conversations I have with people about reverse osmosis systems. It's a common.
That's how you know. That's how you know that you are in too deep with alcohol-free beer when you're having dreams about reverse osmosis. It's outrageous. I'm sure someone has told me this, and I've asked pretty much everybody that I've had on this season. Was it you that told me about the reverse osmosis at Wiper and True? And everyone's gone, no. I haven't thought to actually ask them to just come and do an episode, so that would make a lot of sense, wouldn't it, really? It'd be interesting, though, to see if they do take up the mantle of, like, Dry January beer. It's time for Wiper and True's collab series to return. That would be really cool.
Would be really cool. And also, I mean, how many? I'm so out of touch with the craft beer world that isn't alcohol-free craft beer, other than, as I say, the 2 guest taps that I have at one of my pubs here in Sweden. So I get the output coming through that. But I'm not an expert in the UK craft market. But how many? I feel there's still a big chunk of the industry that's not made an alcohol-free beer yet.
Yeah, who's that brewery that we, you primarily pester? And subsequently, you've got me now checking every time. They seem to upload a new beer every day. They're as bad as that.
Pomona Island.
Yep, those are the bastards. And every time it's like, because the titles are so long that you have to click on, like, read more to see the ABV. And it's like, they'll put a title out that is vaguely maybe like, oh, this suggests, like, it could be a little bit like alcohol-free. Nope, no, it's not.
The other week, we only made this beer, so Ben would have to read right through the end until he could click on it. It's an in-joke tip, guys.
8% dipper. But yeah, like, there are beers that I see in, not so much in the supermarkets anymore. I feel like, again, I might have this wrong, but there seems to be less craft beer in supermarkets than there was when I was a drinker of full alc. That might just be my kind of perception has changed. But when I go into bottle shops, there's beers that I look at and I'm like, oh, I wish I could have had that. That looks really cool, but I can't, because there are still a lot of breweries not doing it yet, as you say.
It would be nice if Wiper and True, a multi-collab for Jan, becomes a big thing. If that enables 3 or 4 new brewers, okay, Track and Northern Monk weren't new to alcohol-free beer, but if that enables a couple of new brewers to use Wiper and True's famous reverse osmosis thing, the one they're known for throughout the industry.
The classic one that's been all over. It's been all over the news. There's a BBC article about it. It's
absolutely.
It's not been fact checked. In fact, it's on X. Yeah, it's on X. That's how I can get away with it. It's been on X and Facebook, and nobody fact checked it.
That means that we get some more brewers dipping their toes into the alcohol-free market. And realizing that, I think it's realizing that it is a different science. It is a different, there's a lot of very skilled people brewing regular beer. It's not something that you just, you don't suddenly do one day. These are people who've done apprenticeship, or they studied at Heriot Watt, or they put in the hard yards to actually learn it, and then they've worked up in different levels of position. It's a career's worth of knowledge for a lot of people. And that knowledge, up until almost now, has not included the rules which need to be changed, broken, bent, ignored for alcohol-free brewing to work properly.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's the thing that I fully appreciate, that it requires an open mindset. It also requires exposure to people who kind of seen how it works and what is possible, and actually what might seem a bit counterintuitive, but it actually works. And this is a good trick for if you want a bit more depth of flavor, then all the things that literally by trial and error people have been finding, that's the stuff that you want to have shared with other breweries, because you don't want a brewery who've got a brew team who've all been in their job for 5 years or more, haven't worked somewhere else at the time when they've been brewing alcohol-free beer, and all of a sudden they're told, right, we're going to make alcohol-free beer this year. Chances are they'll make something that's pretty disappointing.
Yeah, absolutely. On the subject of UK craft beer, we can't talk about UK craft beer and not talk about We Can Be Friends, because, my God, what a beer that is, the Overtone Cola. On cue. It was, I almost sensed that you were ready for another can.
This is a very wonderful collab they did with Overtone. And yeah, that is also in the same glass as my Pine Line Death Shake. So this is the ultimate double gold medal winning beer.
There you go.
It's got a trace of Pine Line Death Shake mixed in with We Can Be Friends and Overtone's gold medal winning particles. So this is a stunning moment in the history of alcohol-free beer.
Yeah, one to never be repeated potentially, or at least not while it's still good, because the Pine Line will be at least 6 years out of date by the time it gets opened.
So yeah, it did bring us on to the subject of We Can Be Friends, and as you say, it seems almost impossible that the first We Can Be Friends beer dropped. It was just before Christmas, 2023, and here we are 15 months later, and there's at least half a dozen absolute world-beating beers.
Yeah, world-beating is the word. I can remember when they launched and they had like 80-odd followers on Facebook, and their bio, I'll always remember this, it was leaders of alcohol-free brewing, or it was on about being leaders in the alcohol-free beer kind of scene. And
they're leaders of the alcohol-free world. Trust me, I noticed.
There we go.
I noticed, but I didn't mention it to my lawyers. Mainly because I don't have lawyers.
But I remember seeing that, and I've been so open to Sam about this. I said, I thought your first beer was going to be shit, because I had no idea who you were, and you asked if you could send me some, and I was like, all right, Ben, like, brace yourself. Like, who is this guy? I've never spoken to him in person. I didn't know how much of a fucking legend he was. But here we are, as you say, 15 months later, and I mean, I wouldn't, for legal reasons, call them leaders of the alcohol-free world, but leaders of the alcohol-free beer industry. I think, if you're talking about the liquid alone, I don't think you can get much better.
It's funny you talked about their first beer, because I do remember. I do remember getting the first beer. I thought a similar thing to you. Who is this? What is this? Is this going to be? Yeah, we both had it. Other people have had it. You get a new beer. You find yourself, someone sends it to you. But it's fine. It's perfectly okay. And then there's not really a follow-up. That one disappears after about 6 months or so. So you kind of think that another beer is going to be another one of them. I liked the first beer, but I wasn't blown away by it. But it certainly had, it certainly had enough to make me, okay, yeah, this is really, for a first beer, this is really competent. And I do remember reading quite a lot of bigger praise for it elsewhere. And I thought to myself, am I being a bit harsh here? Actually, I'm really happy that I was a bit harsh at the start, because subconsciously it left me then plenty of room to go up, because then the next beer was better, and then the next beer was ultraviolet, and that was just like wow. Mm-hmm. And that hit in like summertime, and the weather was better, and I remember cracking cans of it in the garden and just being like this is tune, and this beer is amazing, and
life is perfect.
It was, and then it was like there's been no drop off since then. It's been one fabulous beer from another, and it is just so linking back into what I said earlier about like a beer like Pixie from Tatara that was so full on. It was so full bore. It was a mighty beer that I really, really enjoyed. But it feels like with that knowledge out there, with the raw materials out there, with the techniques out there, it's not enough to just kind of create that crazy sort of uber flavored point to prove alcohol free beer anymore. And where Sam really excels is that I can taste the restraint there. It's like it's being driven by Ayrton Senna. Sorry, I was just wobbling my hands, and I was thinking of an amazing YouTube video of just Ayrton Senna's feet. And I know you knew that this chat tonight was going to get onto the subject of Ayrton Senna's feet, because it always does. But there's this YouTube video of Ayrton Senna basically heel toeing while like driving he's driving like a regular car, and he's in a pair of like beige loafers. It's quite insane the way that he is just it's almost like he's playing the bongos with his feet.
Yeah, that is the best analogy for a We Can Be Friends beer.
And Sam's probably bored of hearing how his brewing technique is just essentially like Ayrton Senna's heel toe driving technique whilst wearing moccasins. But that's what I get when I taste. I like it's Yep, Ayrton Senna's feet. That's what I get, because it just, you can take the fact that you can take the transition, that you can taste where he's come off the power a little bit. He's back, and then the more comes through, and it's just like, wow. And I don't know if he always realizes just how well that comes across in the beer, because it is it is difficult to get those to get right. And it's that which makes a great beer for me. It's the one that it allows room between the different elements for them to one bit kick in and then ease back a little bit and come, because if it all kind of just like comes driving through in one go, then it can be a bit noisy, a bit messy, and you're like, okay, that's a bit, yeah, okay.
It's like it's there wrong. And then it's gone.
Yeah.
And then where do you go from there? What do you do with that? Whereas with one of Sam's beers, it's like you can sit and enjoy every single mouthful, and it's like it just stays with you. And I feel like every beer has gotten better. I think every beer he's released has been better than the previous one, which is just wild. To have gone a full 15 months without any real disasters.
Yeah, I mean,
to me, it's just
between Particles as being just insanely good and the beak.
Yeah, I want to get. They've just done a rebrew, the beak one, and apparently they've refined the recipe a little bit. And if they've improved that beer, that could be the best alcohol-free beer of all time.
I had my last can of it on Friday.
Yeah, in fact, I'm going to order some more after this episode because, yeah, it's reminded me. Yeah, they've done a rebrew and tweaked things. So, like I say, if they have improved that beer, I don't know how they could, really, because it was flawless.
It absolutely was, but flawless. But also, I've not tried any beak beers because that's not what I drink. But I know people who've described beak to me. Once again, we've had beak in my pub a couple of times. And people look very excited, and they said, "Oh yeah, they're from Sussex, and their stuff is kind of a very modern, airy kind of vibe to it. You know, it's definitely got like they're a young brewer, but it's got like a style to it." And I do know people who tried the alcohol-free one and went like, "Yeah, that absolutely, that captures the brewery style a bit as well, in a way that the first Daya one."
Yes, I was going to say with Daya.
I'd never tried. I didn't know what the whole Daya thing was about, but everyone got very excited by what Circus of the Sun, was it? And
yes, Circus of the Sun. That was the one they did with Left-Handed Giant and Verdant, wasn't it? And then they did the We Could Be Friends, Albino Pasta, and then they've just done one of their own, which was I couldn't place that one. They're Spoken Into Existence. That's the name of it. I didn't know where to place it. It was like really, I just got white grape, like so much white grape that it was almost a bit boozy. And I know that is like a gnarly.
Load of Nelson Stroval.
Yes. And it was that. Weirdly, it was a very similar like hop content to the collab beer that me and Sam did, but such a different result from Daya to what, let's be honest, what Sam did with that beer. But yeah, it was just like, this is just Daya through and through. It's gnarly and it's potent and it's like, it's craft beer, just alcohol free. So yeah, that was pretty wild. But yeah, the beak one was delicious. I'm in the same boat. I didn't get to drink beak. It's one of my greatest regrets of my time as an alcoholic, was not drinking that. On that front, there's a different brewery. It's a different vein, but it's also a brewery that came into my world this year, really, and that's Omnipollo. We couldn't be going further away from hazy craft beer in the UK when we talk about, in particular, the Bianca series from Omnipollo. That, like, I didn't think beer could look like that ever until I saw it, and it was you that put me onto them. It's just wild, right?
Yeah, Omnipollo, for anyone who doesn't know, Omnipollo craft beer royalty, even I understood that. Omnipollo are a huge brand in Sweden, not just in Sweden, but in Stockholm, where I live, because we have the Omnipollo bars in Stockholm. One's a pop up in the summer, but there's a Omnipollo's Church, which is their brew pub and bar, and Omnipollo are incredibly innovative craft brewers, and for as long as I remember have been knocking out some fairly inventive alcohol-free beers. I remember having their lingonberry cheesecake alcohol-free.
What?
during COVID, which included like digestive biscuit crumbs
What?
in it.
No.
Lingonberry Ostkaka, which is a cheesecake in Sweden. And it was all kinds of bonkers because you literally you shake and then you're pouring out chunks of digestive into your, and it did actually, because of the biscuit, it really did taste like, it literally just tasted like lingonberry cheesecake. And that was one of the things that made me fall in love with Omnipollo, because I was like, okay, these people have got clearly a very big sense of humor, because
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
you don't really take authenticity to the point of including biscuit, like actual biscuit. If you'd had that Mash Gang Australia biscotti stout and poured it out, and there had actually been chunks of biscotti biscuit that crumbled and fell into the top of your pint, you'd have been like,
Yeah, be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, come on.
Omnipollo did that, and their stuff is pretty widely available here. And I was aware that they made the Bianca series in full out. And I don't remember which one was the first one. I think, was it the pineapple one was the first Bianca that I tried?
Pineapple was the first that I
And I sent that. I remember I sent it to you because I said, do you like pineapple? Because I've had pineapple juice tasted less of pineapple than this stuff.
Yeah. And I went into that being like, oh, it's going to be like really sharp, and that's it. And then I drank it, and it was like, yeah, this is like pineapple on acid. I'll never taste pineapple the same again.
It's just the recipe that they've hit on with the Bianca series is really, for me, it's the unique properties of a sour beer, which kind of opens up your taste buds in a way that then when you have the sweeter, more sugary, rich fruit elements to it, it's almost like stretches your taste buds. And then they feel the fruit and experience the fruit in just a bigger way. And it just makes these, I know people who sneer a bit about the fruited end of craft. Mm-hmm. And there is a bit of sneering, and there is a bit of much rather, give me a Belgian triple, well, fine, or maybe a creek at a push, but I'm not going to drink one of these ridiculous fruited.
Especially when you throw the alcohol-free element there, because then there's even more to latch onto in terms of it just being a fruit juice, and it's like
exactly. And I have had, I would drink anything with mango on it. I'm an easy mark for big mango. I have had a lot of mango and a lot of maracuja beers, which, to be honest, I have loved, but they are so soft drink adjacent that it's a big cold glass of slightly watery mango juice, which I love.
Yep. Yeah.
So I'm totally okay with that. But Omnipollo, because of the fact that they choose, they brew them Le Christie in Belgium with De Proef. It's on it's a sour. It's a wild yeast they use. So they're playing with some very distinctive technique. And then when they hang the fruit on it, it just all works so well. And they don't rely on the sweetness of the fruit, because they got the marshmallow side of stuff as well. But then you've got because it's not all just like regular sour, it's the goza, like with the light salinity to it as well. It just all works so well. So you get this beer, which is,
it's like Willy Wonka.
Yeah,
that's the way I put it. Is like when they lick the wallpaper in Willy Wonka. And there's the line where it's like, oh, it's blueberries. I can feel it running down my throat. It's like, yep, that is when I try to talk about these beers, other than just going like, look at this. Like, I've got no other words. It's just that. Because unless you've tasted it, you'll never really be able to understand just how complex it is and what an experience it is. It's ridiculous. And then how they do whatever they do with that head.
The base jam, the blueberry one, was just...
Yeah, I tried to replicate that with just yesterday. Actually, I had the new one, the blackberry.
The blackberry one, yeah.
And the head isn't. I mean, I still got a little bit of an overhang, but the previous one was like 2 inches above the glass.
It's insane.
And like, again, alcohol-free beer. Who would have seen that coming? Like, it's just wild. And as you say, it's science. It is science, and it's art. The beer that they make. And
the other for me big thing about Omnipollo is always their Christmas beer, which I know you were a fan of this year, and and I think was their best one with they came up with the oak Wintermuth sour this year, and the last 2 years have been previously a variant on the classic Swedish Julmuth soft drink that is drunk in Sweden.
That is delicious. You sent me the
delicious.
most gorgeous bottle of that for Christmas, and it was like, this is my Christmas drink. It was so darn delicious.
It's a lovely drink. And yet, Omnipollo this year, it was lightly oak, and they had that sour edge to it. I think you described it as tasting like kind of the best grown-up Coca-Cola you've ever tried, and it really did. It had that caramelly kind of. It's actually quite. If you had to describe Coca-Cola to someone who didn't know, like, Coca-Cola out of a glass bottle, and you weren't allowed to use the words, it tastes like Coca-Cola.
Yeah, that's where you'd go.
Yeah, how do you go about describing what Coca-Cola tastes like without using the word Coca-Cola? It's really hard.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. But it was like that, and I'd never tried Julmuth before. I didn't know of it. It's not something that I'd ever sampled. So when I drank it, I didn't know what to expect in terms of a flavour profile. And first sip, it was, you said so rightly, like Coca-Cola out of a glass bottle in sepia glasses. You know, how you think you're going to feel when you drink a Coca-Cola, how Coca-Cola want you to think you're going to feel when you drink a Coca-Cola. That beer is, and it's perfect. It was so good. And with Omnipollo as well, something that I certainly don't give them enough credit for, but they exist. They make some incredible IPAs and more standard beer that is just really good as well, because it would be so easy for them to just have, you know, we do these wild sours and these things like this, but they've got some incredible, just classic brews.
They just brewed their second alcohol-free IPA at their own brew facility in Stockholm.
Nice.
I could remember the name of it, but the review went up on my page this morning.
Well, I've got a can of that in my fridge. Oh, what's it blooming called?
Got a keyhole on it, and it
does have a keyhole. I'm going to look at my orders.
Like pine out of space or something.
Yeah, I've got a can of that in my fridge ready to go. It's one of those beers that I'm not going to drink today because I'm tired and I can't be bothered to film, which is really bad of me. Oh, it's not in my blooming it's not on the receipt. But yeah, it's one that I'm looking forward to.
It's a goodie, and it's brewed at their Sundbyberg Pattern of Play, it's called.
Pattern of Play.
And it's their second in-house brewed alcohol-free.
Nice.
And they as you say, it's not just all about the sours. They've got a really good coffee stout. They have got a range of really good IPAs. The only thing I will say about the IPAs is I pick up sometimes a bit of the house style from De Proof in Belgium, because they make damn good alcohol-free beer, and they're one of the best places in the world at making it, and it's coming out the same place. And you ask them to make something, and you can't ask them to forget everything that they know about beer that they make using the same equipment and the same technique for other people. So there is a touch of a house style in the less esoteric beers that they brew, and that's not a bad thing, because if I was to get someone in Europe to make an alcohol-free beer for me under contract, I'd go to De Proof, and I know it would be a 80 to 85 out of 100 on my scale every time, and that's a fantastic score for a beer.
Speaking of European beers, because it's a world that, again, in the last 12 months, I've probably started to submerge myself into, maybe a little bit longer, thanks to the wonderful people at OMP5. When you kind of get into that water and you start looking beyond, your own country, you go, my God, it's not just here. There's beer everywhere, like Trappist beers, Belgian beers, like you name it, it exists. It's just incredible. It
made me forget the fact that I'm very angry with the world that I can't find places in Germany that will send me the 700 German alcohol-free beers I haven't tried yet, and I've tried about 200 and something. Yeah, there are so many amazing alcohol-free beers that are not available more than 10 kilometers outside of a medium-sized city in Germany. It's incredible, and I spent so much time begging small regional websites to like ship me a carton to the UK or to Sweden, and they're just like, Yeah, they're just like, we're not going to do it. It's too expensive. We can't be bothered. It's just like, no, it's not great. And even some of them, like, it's not great for the planet. You know, we sell most of our stuff locally. We know where the bottles go. When they come back to us, they get recycled. We don't actually really like the idea of sending you like loads of it overseas.
Oh, you can't even be cross at that one.
No, I'm kind of like, damn, you people are really nice.
Yeah, for fuck's sake.
You're really good people, making good arguments and speaking in a very reasonable way. So
I want my beer.
Yeah, I'm not going to be mad at you, but I am less mad at people because Raoul and his team on the Nunpunzi, apologies to any Dutch people offended by my pronunciation. They just do an amazing job. And I haven't ordered any beer direct from Poland in about a year. And I always used to order beer directly from places in Poland. And Raoul sometimes would message me and be like, "Oh wow, I haven't even seen that one." And that I don't even need to do that anymore because I haven't got time to. Because every time I click on Raoul's pages, I'm like, "Oh god, there's another 25 beers that I haven't seen."
I know. It's ridiculous. I have to treat myself I have to demonstrate a level of restraint because there are so many beers. Because you've got like the whole of Europe on that website pretty much. And it's like, right, okay, no, I need to just like, every now and again, I'll treat myself to some beers. And every time I do it, I think I'm going to do this again, like far sooner. Because there's beers that I would never have known about without ONP5 that are just incredible.
The thing that the times that I then go back and buy multiples of the same beer, which sometimes takes a bit of discipline on my part because I need to go back and look and go, actually, I love that beer and won't necessarily be my absolute highest scoring beer all the time. But it's a beer that I've been like, you know what, there was something just different and really, and yeah, that was a great example. And when I do then remember to kind of get 4 of those when I make another order, and you kind of live with a beer for a little while, and there's no pressure because you only got 1 or 2 of them, and you have 3 or 4 of them, and you really kind of, you live with it for a bit, and you have 4 in the fridge, and then you just like, that's even better, and that then makes me like, what? How many of these beers would be in that category if I was?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, if I sat and lived with a 12-pack of some of these beers, and I know in Sweden there are several beers which are like my fridge beers, and I had a Easy Rider IPA from Gotland Brewery this evening, which you've got a can of somewhere, Ben. It's a small red can with a bulldog on a motorbike.
Yeah, that was almost the video that I edited today, but I didn't. I think it will be during this week.
Well,
yeah,
I had one of those with supper at my in-laws this evening. And whilst I was just about following the conversation in Swedish, I was also a bit distracted by thinking to myself, you know what? This is just a really, really good beer. I am really lucky that I can just go to any supermarket and grab some cans of this because it's a really nice, strong flavoured IPA. It's nicely hazy, got enough sweetness, got a good body to, and it really just works with the hops. And this is just I'm lucky to be able to just go to a supermarket and buy that one. And yet I remember probably when I first...
Here it is. Sorry.
The one?
Easy Rider Bulldog.
Yeah.
The video on my phone. What's the audio?
And that's the beer, which...
Brigari.
Oh, there you go. Brigari. The last one. Very good.
Thank you. Anyway, that's enough of me. That's weird. Like me on a video. Like Inception. But yeah, to have a beer that exists that you can have readily available, you were saying before I interrupted.
Yeah, you become a lot. There are beers like that one, which probably when I first had it, I was kind of like, yeah, it's perfectly nice. But because it's a beer I've lived with now for several years, and it's always one that I know I can get, it is absolutely one of my favourite beers. And there are probably hundreds of beers like that in Europe, hundreds of beers like that available on Raoul's site where, if you lived in the country, if you could get them really easily, if they weren't a limited edition, then you could live with those beers for a while. You'd be like, wow, this is an amazing beer. And that's definitely been one of the big leaps forward in the sheer number of beers, which are, they're as good as that. They really are they're just damn good regular drinking beers that.
Which leads us on to Proper Job, because that falls into that category for me. I can go to my local Morrison's, which is like a 2-minute drive or a 40-minute walk, make that make sense. I can go there and pick up a bottle of Proper Job whenever I fancy it. And it has changed the way that I drink beer at home because it's so good. And we got to try that together, like in real life, it's possibly one of the reasons I love the beer so much, because I just attribute it to when we tried it at the Guild Awards. And that was unexpected, I think.
It was. And it's funny you mention the British Guild of Beer Writers Award. St Austell Brewery were one of the sponsored authors of the evening of the great and good of the British beer writing industry, and you and I representing the alcohol-free beer writing.
Flying that little flag in the corner.
I'm not sure they really knew that they had yet, but we were there as two kind of weirdly enthusiastic extraterrestrials, and we were sat on the table right next to where the Proper Job St Austell Brewery stand was, and then the pair of us saw that we were aware that it was coming out alcohol-free, and we saw it and we're like, wow, they've got Proper Job alcohol-free. So we have to have this first. And I remember we both poured it, and then we just like, yeah, and I've got you on camera swearing about how damn good this stuff is. And then I remember saying to the guys from the brewery, I was like, do you realize how good this is? They were like, yeah, but our guys are like really happy with it. I'm like, no. That, like, I'm not just saying that this is kind of like, well done, guys. Well done for doing an alcohol-free beer. Pat on the head.
Yeah. This isn't a token thank you.
Like, do you really realize how in the kind of this is Guinness Zero level important liquid you have made here?
Yeah.
Because it's an ale, but it's not all the things that scare people about the world of craft, and it's not going to be all flowery, and it's not going to toast like soap, and it's just the really just perfectly made glass of bitter almost that's just a joy to drink, and it's just a perfect alcohol-free beer.
It's a beer that's been missing from my life for 3 years since I gave up alcohol. It's a beer that we've come close to a few times, but we've never nailed it. And I expected it to be much the same, which is, I think, another reason I love it so much was when we were pouring them up, it was like, all right, we're going to probably be on this all evening, and I'm not sure how it's going to be, thinking it was going to disappoint a little bit, but it blew me away. It's incredible. It's the best supermarket alcohol-free beer in the United Kingdom, in my opinion.
It is
by a considerable distance.
Like I said earlier, I will routinely overthink and spoil things for myself. I worry about Proper Job, and I worry about their margins, and I worry about their contract with Morrison's. And I worry about £1.50 a bottle. I worry about lots of things. And I think, are they going to keep making it?
God, I hope so.
Are people going to stop buying it if they're to sell it at a price that enables anybody to make any money out of it? Are they going to suddenly stop selling it through Morrison's because they haven't hit the insane numbers they needed to even make it make sense? Have they? I don't understand enough about that side of their activity to know if it's going to work. But right now, I am recommending to people in the UK, as you are, that this is a game-changing alcohol-free beer, because we've spoken at great length on this call about the craft side and the fact there's been this incredible wave of powerful craft beer in its bed, which is wonderful, because you love it and I love it, and neither of us are snob to the exclusion of other stuff. But there are people who that's just not their hate of beer. They're not as into, the more sort of bitter end of the hops. It's not, the New World hops with a slightly bigger flavor profile. It's just a different product in many respects. And I fully respect people who are like, well, that's just not my type of beer. I'm one of those people at times, hadn't had that beer. Ghost Ship was probably about as close.
Yeah. I would say. I'd say that. Nirvana's Best Bitter was good. Actually, I will give them credit. That was another beer that surprised me.
Yeah.
Better than I thought it was going to be, significantly.
It's an awful Proper Job. It just nails that space that is just like that is for someone who wants a regular English bitter.
Yes. Yeah. That's it.
Bang. And if I had a pub in the UK, I would want that in the fridges. I would want it on half, but
We can dream. We can dream one day, maybe. One day. I don't see how it's scientifically possible, but one day, maybe.
Someone's got. I mean, I that's another thing I lied awake at night thinking about. But it must be possible. Cask alcohol free.
I mean, to be honest, you look at how far it's come in 3 years, which I'm only saying 3 years because that's how long I've been aware of it. Nothing would shock me anymore, looking at how the market is now and what beers exist and all of the progress. Nothing would shock me.
I think certainly a beer like St. Austell's Proper Job takes us closer to the time when that's going to happen. In the same way that Guinness Zero in cans has led the way to Guinness Zero on tap, and this incredible experience that you now have in Ireland. I've got a friend of mine who was very skeptical about alcohol-free beer, and now he's a convert. Particularly, so many of his friends are a convert because they go out and drink in Dublin, and they'll have 3 pints of regular and 2 pints of alcohol-free. Mix them up. Sometimes they might do a whole night on the alcohol-free. Sometimes, so it's just interchangeable.
Yeah, I think that's the world that I want to see. When it is just so accessible and so available that there's no reason to justify it, and there's no reason to feel like you're going out of your way to source it. I hope that we get there. I had quite a scary chat on this platform, actually, with Andy Mee from Alcohol Free Drinks Company, and he was saying that he's actually worried that with the growing availability of alcohol-free, actually you're seeing more people just go for macro because it's the easy option. So as more people are becoming aware of it, actually what we could be seeing is like more options but fewer choices, if that makes sense. And that's something that I'm putting in the back of my brain and kind of ignoring and hoping that it doesn't become a thing because it would be a real shame. But yeah, it's the world I want to see, is where there are just good options everywhere for people to just be able to go, oh yeah, I'll have that. And it doesn't feel like a burden for anybody.
I think that's what I think the job is going to, in alcohol-free form, is going to do that. In that it's going to, I can imagine I don't like stereotype, but I can imagine a stereotypical bitter drinker, pint glass of that, drinking a pub, and just anyone sort of saying or so that, and he just going like, no, actually, this is really decent. Let me try some of that. Wow. Like, in the same way, that's exactly what I joke about Guinness winning a Nobel Prize for Guinness Zero. I think it should happen. But that has done more than any other drink for the reputation of alcohol-free beer, because you've heard it, I've heard it, people going, oh, alcohol-free beer, it's all shit. And then someone else go like, well, you tried Guinness though, mate. Oh, yeah, that's right. No, all right, granted, apart from the road and the sanitation, what have Guinness ever done for us? Yeah, well, yeah. And that's enough to just kind of stop that pub bore in their tracks, because then they have to kind of go, yeah, okay, Guinness is, granted, that's damn good. But you get my point. The most alcohol-free beer is not, and Proper Job is in that space, and I can see it just creating space for people to get comfortable with the idea of that. And I'm sure there are pubs already where people are having a pint of regular Proper Job off the cask and then having a bottle or two of Proper Job alcohol-free out of the fridge.
Yeah, it's a world that I am excited to be a part of at the moment, and it is beers like that they're really important. Like you say, for availability and for education, really, because people will drink a beer like that and go, oh shit, okay, I didn't know you could do this. It's like, yeah. And now welcome to this wonderful world of alcohol-free beer, and look at all of the amazing options that you can have to choose, like free of choice, free to choose from even. Like, there's so much. Where do you think we need to go from here? I asked you that at the end of the last episode 12 months ago, but it almost seems like this past 12 months, things have gone so far. I kind of struggle to see what has to happen next, or what will happen next with it. It seems very unpredictable at the moment.
I'm not very good at making predictions. I think all I would say is that we'll see more acceptance of alcohol-free beer, just as at the end of the day, it's a beer. And having an alcohol-free beer will increasingly mean nothing and will not need to be served with an excuse or a justification. It's a bit like a cocktail. Do you want an olive and an umbrella with that, or with alcohol-free beer? To some extent, for a long time, it's been like, yeah, there's your alcohol-free beer, sir. Would you like the I'm on antibiotics line, or would you like the I can't drink anymore line? Yeah, which justification do you want with that? And we are moving more and more to the world now where it's just like, I'm drinking an alcohol-free beer. No one makes a comment, because the next beer I might order might be with alcohol, or it might not. No one really comments on it, and there is nothing really to comment about, because it's just it's a choice of beverage. In the same way, if someone orders a prawn cocktail or a 6 oysters, they're both starters.
Yeah.
And I didn't fancy. I didn't fancy the 6 or you're not eating oysters. No, I didn't fancy the prawn cocktail eater. Oh, I just fancied a prawn cocktail. But you don't tend to attack people over their food choices. Yeah, that's the way I think. Yeah, the prediction is that's the way it's going, and there's just more people are just not going to see the difference and not get the baggage that goes with having to explain their choice, and people are just going to not feel the need to make the comments or put people in that position.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel like that is the way that we're going, and I think, as we touched on, I think like Guinness and St. Austell are, in this country, in the UK, are significant players in that. You've also got not Peculiar, brands like that. Bloody Brains, was it Brains?
Yeah, I did like that Brains. That was a very bold.
It was assertive, wasn't it?
Assertive in a kind of punch you in the face.
Yeah. That level of assertive.
Shirt in one hand and sort of pin you against the wall, and ask you in a very loud, cigarette-smelling voice if you're okay with the choice of beverage.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, that was wild, but I think that we are getting to a level of acceptance. I mean, our inclusion at the Guild Awards for me was so eye-opening, because I didn't know if there would be any kind of just like sideways glances. I didn't know what to make of that world. I'd never been in a room like that.
And they were
full of these people.
Right. They were we together, because we are part of that world. It's a lovely community. It's a lovely community of people, and there were no naughty remarks, and people were very welcoming to us both.
And a lot of people were drinking the stuff as well, like the alcohol-free stuff. It was just, for me, that was the moment where I kind of, it solidified my belief in the liquid. It's like, right, okay, things are progressing here, and the world is taking this into account, that these are genuine options, because I think people have always wanted them. I think the quality just hasn't been there, but now it really is, and I think that it's only going to get better in the next few years. I mean, I don't see how we can improve on the craft UK craft beer. I don't see how that can get much better. I might be proven wrong.
I mean, one thing I think that you and I are not well positioned to talk about is the beers that people are going to drink in the zebra stripe way. We already hear that, Guinness just regular, alcohol-free, regular. People say, that just, it works seamlessly. That works really, really well. Neither you nor I, Ben, are qualified to assess which alcohol-free beers really work and really stand up to being kind of those interval beers that can slot in alongside. And that might be genuine skill from a bartender to suddenly go, right, you've had 3 pints of Madry. I recommend that you go start drinking, have a couple of this one, because I could think there are going to be some alcohol-free that really, that don't stand up to that. To be tasted in those conditions, they don't quite work. The people are going to go, oh, no, I don't like. But then I'd have mash gang brutalism in the fridge, just to scare people. If someone's had 5 pints of neck oil and they're getting a little bit leery and then saying, "Oh, I just want to slow down for a bit," you just be like, "Right, I kind of pass me the heater."
You can slow down a lot.
Brutalism, and then they'll sip it for about an hour because it's too strong for them. But I think that there is going to be there are going to be beers which really work, and that the market will suddenly say, actually, there's loads of people drinking bottles of Guinness Zero. and drinking Madry, because actually there's a lot of real similarities between the two beers, and it really works. So I'm raising my eyebrows at the same time because I don't rate Madry Zero, but maybe that as an idea is going to work, or maybe there will be another macro alcohol free that really cuts through. Corona still could work in that respect, because I stand for Corona still. I think it's damn good, but that's because I used to drink regular Corona by the absolute gallon in the noughties, but I was never going to tell you it's the greatest beer I've ever had. Oh God, wow. I wasn't waxing lyrical about Pacifico, much better Mexican beer. I used to really adore that stuff. And it's nowhere near as good as that. But it didn't matter. Corona was a weak beer that I really enjoyed drinking in warm weather, because I could drink it pretty much endlessly and still cycle back from the pub in Paris, and it's all fine. And it's just nice. It's happy juice. I liked it. I can imagine that Corona Zero, because you drink Corona out the bottle, so you have the thing. And, that could be that could be another example of the beer that fills the gap,
bridges the gap a little.
Yeah, in the way that Guinness Zero does. But I think there are going to be, the prediction that I said I wasn't going to make is that there are going to be beers that become popular as those zebra stripe beers.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah,
and they're ones which perhaps you and I are not well positioned to suddenly go, you know what, that one is just really good, because after you've had 2 pints and you got a bit of a lip on and you're like, but I need to slow down a bit. That's actually a really good one to have.
Yeah, that's interesting. I can see that happening, and I think Stella is a good example of one that could bridge that gap as well. Like, for me, in terms of the macro, I think Stella is the closest I can put to the full stuff from what I remember of it. I drank Stella and I was like, yeah, it's Stella. That's just Stella. But again, it's been so long since I drank alcohol. God knows what Stella tastes like these days. But it will be interesting to see where we stand in. I feel like in 12 months we'll probably be in pretty much the same boat. What interests me is where we are in 5 years from now. That's what I would love to have a crystal ball and see into the future. Just out of intrigue, not for, financial gain, although that would be nice as well. But I'd just like to see where we stand with it all, and to see what the ceiling is, if there is a ceiling, how far it can continue to grow. Because it's a wonderful world once you open the door and have a look into it.
It's come so far in 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, 1 year. Are there problems in alcohol-free brewing that AI is going to solve for us? Because things that may have been, lots of things which are considered today as being impossible are going to be solved by AI, just purely because it's just going to have the brute force to do stuff that it's not been worth doing before. So is that going to then lead to just completely re-engineered yeast formulations? And I know we've had like the incredible developments in yeast, but you've got gene editing going on and new strains of yeast being developed. There could be an entirely new molecule that mirrors the impact of, or the effect of alcohol in the very short term, in a way that no current like nootropics do, but create some sort of temporary physical effect without any ill effect. That could be created. You could be seeing beers with that in it that then have like zero negative impact on you, but create something more of an alcohol type buzz. There's all sorts of things that could happen. It could be radically reshaped, radically changed. The whole nature of what drink we drink could change. I don't want to stop drinking We Can Be Friends and Overtones Particles, but if it's not available in a year's time, I can't be drinking it. And in 5 years' time, it might be something completely different entirely. But I sincerely hope I can still drink great beer, but the world may have surprised us again.
I hope you're right, and I hope you're wrong, which is a strange position to take, but I'm going to double down on that one. Martin, thank you for coming to do this episode. It was just lovely to bloody catch up with you, to be honest.
Yeah, it's been really,
I could have kept this going for like a lot longer than I have done, and I'll already pre-book you in for season 3 if that's okay.
Perfect.
If people want a season 3.
I'm looking forward to drinking the beer called Ayrton Senna's Shoes, which is going to be made at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, 100% by what are they bloody called? The guys that won't release an alcohol-free beer.
That would actually be, Ayrton Senna's Brown Driving Shoes by Pomona Island.
Yeah, watch this space. It's coming in 2025.
It can be kind of a mahogany brown color, and it could just be like some car pedals, and then just like the tasseled loafers.
You've done it for them. What are they doing? Cowards. Absolute cowards. Martin, thank you very much. I will catch you very soon, my friend.
Have a good evening, Ben. Cheers.
To be honest, that was just nice to catch up with a friend, because Martin Dixon is one of my closest friends, not just in the world of alcohol-free beer, but in the world as a whole. If you want to check out Martin's work, find Alcohol-Free World and let the man educate you, quite frankly. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Sober Boozers Club podcast. My name is Ben Gibbs, and I will catch you very soon.